Okay, and it says recording on your end too?
Yes, it does.
Amazing. Oh my God.
You're listening to Enhance, the podcast dedicated to highlighting real stories told by real people.
Hey, what's up, you guys? My name's Gabby Savat, your beautiful host with Enhance, but I also have another beautiful lady with us, Miss Maresa.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Gabby.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. So excited that you're on. We've been friends for a very long time. We also met in college, kind of like me and Sam did, but we were in the same sorority together. Yeah, we were line buddies.
Yes, we had such great memories, and every day I always looked forward to seeing Gabby in line for chapter, and we'd
Yeah.
always up.
Oh my God, every single time. And also, like, I feel like every single time it was one of us just saying a sarcastic comment before we like went in. It was great.
It was so hard to hide our laughter.
People were always like, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I'm having a good time. But yeah, so we've known each other for a bit of a time. How many years has it been?
3-4 years, something like that.
I feel like it's more than that. Because we met, was it my junior year? No, my sophomore year. So that's
Freshman. 6
well for
years.
you freshman because you're a child.
Yes, I'm a little baby cakes.
Oh, it's so cute. Wait, so like sophomore, junior, senior, and then that was COVID time. So 21, 22, 20. That's 6 years, almost 6 years.
Dang, no wonder we're shooting out grays.
And then it's like, and then we have a friend that has like given birth. And just like, what is happening? I feel like it's just like we're too adult now.
I know, right?
It's like scary girl hours, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of scary girl hours, let's put the pressure on. Let's do an icebreaker real fast. So the question of the day is, what is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh man,
It's on.
it
The
is.
pressure.
I think it's gonna have to be September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Just
And
because.
that is the correct answer.
Oh yeah, it's such a good song. I have a backstory with it, which isn't really the most positive, but very memorable.
Crazy. Oh my God.
And it always good vibes.
Actually, for my day job, that's the song I use to do our little like who's who, like in the yearbook kind of thing, like who's gonna make the most money when they grow up, I'm like, who's gonna be a king, and it's literally, do you remember the very first September? Anyway, but yeah, no, I love that song. Now if I had to say something different for myself, I don't know, I'm usually a good like go to Broadway hits because that's the only acceptable time I can sing a Broadway song and no one can judge me.
And you are such a theater girly.
It's to a fault. I was actually just talking to one of my aunts the other day and I was like, no one ever wants to go to a musical with me. And she's like, well, I'll go. And I was like, oh, that's right. You're the other musical girly. So we need to all go together. And she's like, of course. So we're trying to, yes, exactly. We're trying to pick a little musical to go to right now. It's so cute. Anyway. Right. Well, we have a really good lineup coming to St. Louis. Like there's Moulin Rouge, Beetlejuice, the Michael Jackson musical, the Tina Turner musical, Funny Girls coming. Like it's a good like list. And I feel like they're more to the times of what musicals are coming because those are the ones like everyone's kind of glued to right now in the theater world, especially Moulin Rouge. Like I'm gonna die. I need to see that one.
You gonna cry at it?
Maybe. I haven't cried. Okay, so this is something weird about me. I don't usually cry at shows. There's very a select few shows that I've cried at, whether it be like full-on musicals or plays or concerts even. Like I have no emotion. And I think I'm just traumatized, and that's why I don't have emotions. But I have only cried at like certain ones. Like I cried at Beyonce when I was on stage with her, which like who wouldn't cry? Excuse you. I cried at Hairspray when I saw it with my friend Andrew, bless his heart. Because that was a very emotional time for all of us. And then at the musical Rent, because that was Andrew's favorite and he passed away. So those are the ones I've like cried at. I did shed a tear at the Jonas Brothers, but that is only because that's only because I like that's like my childhood band. So like TTYL. Thank you.
You
See you later.
you can't forget that.
I know the weekend was too good too, but that one was for my birthday and I want to marry him. So yeah. Well, enough about me. Let's get into our topic today. Okay, so today we're talking about a toxic work environment, which I'm sure several of you have had that experience. I feel like everyone's at least had one toxic moment at their workplace, just because, you know, when different personalities are coming together, generations and, you know, different levels, that's when people get power hungry or they get in their mind and then they move forward into doing something just that's ridiculous, to be honest with you. But Maresa, why don't you go ahead and tell us a time in your life that you were in a toxic work environment?
God, where do I start?
Oh my God.
So I think really the most memorable was whenever I was in high school and I worked at Five Guys. So there would be a lot of shifts where I was literally the only girl there, and a lot of guys would talk about sex, and that made me really uncomfortable. And there was even one time where this guy's girlfriend came in, and the guy told me after she left, like, oh yeah, she said that if she wasn't dating me, she'd be wanting to fuck you. I'm like, that
What?
is. And I was like 17.
Wow.
Traumatizing. And also, oh, this is another traumatizing moment. There was, okay, let me back up a little bit. The Five Guys I worked at was in a little strip. And at the end of the strip was Ceasefire. And they'd all come in and get refills on drinks, get lunch, so on and so forth. And there was this one guy that worked there and he would always come and flirt with me. One day, as I'm coming in early in the morning, he and one of the girls that used to be my manager that worked there flagged me down in the parking lot just to ask me if I had a boyfriend.
Oh.
Yeah. Like they whipped into the parking lot. He was already sitting there waiting for me to tag team me, to ask me that.
Hmm.
I was traumatized because, you know, they're both bigger people. Like they could take me down if they really wanted to.
Sure.
So I run up to the front and I'm grabbing the door, shaking it as hard as I can. Let me in. Because I was terrified for my life.
Oh my gosh, that's so scary. Like, especially if they're really like whipping their car, like you see the dramatics that's already going on.
And then whenever I go inside, I told my coworkers what happened, and which were all guys at the time. You're just overreacting. That didn't.
Oh,
I'm like, were you there? Did you feel the fear that I did? You just don't understand because you're not a woman. You don't know what the world is for a woman.
oh shoot. That's crazy. Wait, time out. I forgot to put my headphones in. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing. We might
Yeah,
have to start over.
it happens.
This is what happens. I was like, I'm half asleep. Oh no. I'm so sorry, Marisa. We might have to start over. I was about to say, like, oh my God, I hear you so clearly. Am I awake? Oh my God. Okay. I'm sorry.
Clearly?
Huh?
Are you not supposed to hear me clearly?
So here's the tea. So if I have my mic running and you're coming out of my computer, it's catching both my voice and your voice.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, because these are really rinky dinky headset.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Good morning. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Okay. Let's try to do it pretty similar to how we just did, because that was really good. But you were doing really well.
Thank you.
And I like those stories. So keep those right here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And was that Marie?
Yeah, she sneezed.
I was about to say, she's yelling at Piper, isn't she?
Not this time. Piper's in here with me.
Oh, cutie patootie. Okay. Starting over. But if it sounds good when I'm editing, then I'll just leave it and then I'll just cut it to where we left off.
Okay.
Okay. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. This is so embarrassing. Okay. Hey everyone, welcome back to Enhance. This is Gabby, your amazing host. And we also have another amazing, beautiful host with us, Miss Maresa.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me, Gabby. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, of course, and welcome back. I appreciate you. She's one of our listeners, but she's also one of my best friends that we met in college. So it was a wild time. We were in a sorority together. We were line buddies. We would bully each other.
Oh, yeah. Constantly.
Oh my gosh. And all of the girlies were like, because we would just talk the whole time and say like sarcastic comments to each other because we were like, we don't want to be here.
How else were we supposed to entertain ourselves in chapter?
Correct, honestly. But it was such a fun time. And it's been wow, like almost 6 years that we've known each other.
Crazy.
I can't even, that was too much math in for me. That was really quick math.
Good for you, Gabby. I'm proud.
Oh my gosh. Well, how this morning's going, we gotta have some cheering to do.
Celebrate.
Right, exactly. So let's get into our icebreaker real quick. So our icebreaker is, what is your go-to karaoke song?
Man. Gotta be September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's just such a great song to really lift up those vibes. And also, I have a little bit of a backstory with that song. I'm not going to go into it, maybe on a different segment, but not right now.
Oopsies. Oopsies.
But yeah, it's just a good song, a classic.
Oh yeah, that one's really good. I usually use that one for my kiddos when they do the little like who had the best stats and like who like they have a whole thing because we sing the whole song and I make them listen to the entire 3-4 minutes song.
Good.
Absolutely. They need to be cultured. Let's see. Mine is usually a Broadway song, but that's only because I feel like that's the only time to acceptably like sing out a Broadway song, like not in the middle of like the road or something, but it's a good time.
But you do love your theater songs.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely a theater girly. I literally want to go to every play on the planet. My aunt wants to go to a play with me. I'm so excited. We'll see how that goes. We're gonna plan it. But there's a lot of good shows coming to St. Louis. Ooh, excuse me. But I'm really excited to see them. They're like very up to date. Like it's Moulin Rouge, the Tina Turner musical, the Michael Jackson musical, Funny Girl, Beetlejuice. Like those are like ones people are really into right now. And so it's really exciting that they're bringing that back here.
Yeah, they sound like a really fun time.
I know. And then like they even have Book of Mormon coming, which I have been dying to see that.
Me too. I'm not a theater person, but that is one I would want to see.
Yeah, I really, really want to see that one just because like it's been on my list for so long and I'm like, I just need to mark it out because they have because I've like seen Mamma Mia, Aladdin, Wicked, Rent. I've seen a bunch and I actually have like a little stack of like all my playbills.
Oh,
I know, isn't it so cute? But I know I need to like use them to decorate again because they used to be up on my wall. But
you should pick up a collage.
I thought about that, but I didn't want to cut them up.
Then maybe like out and put them in a shadow box.
Ooh, maybe. I kind of like that. Well, what I did is I had them framed and or not pleated. Is it pleated? No. Where they get the back or the, wow, border. They get like a border and then the frame. And then in the middle, it's them.
Gotcha. I don't know what that's called either, but I can imagine it.
Well, I knew what it was called, but I can't remember. But yeah, like I used to have like a bunch, like singly everything just like on my wall. And it used to be a very, very fun time, but that's okay. Well, enough about me. Let's talk about toxic work environments. I think everyone has had an experience where they have experienced, if not a toxic full environment, they've definitely had a toxic moment at work. It's something everyone goes through because there's so many different levels and ages, generations, thoughts, cultures, all coming in to one spot. And people just react in different ways, and sometimes it's not very the best. So, Maresa, why don't you go ahead and tell us a couple stories of you interacting with a toxic work environment?
Geez, where do I start? So, I think the most memorable toxic work environment was whenever I was in high school and I was working at Five Guys. So there's a couple of different instances that happened here. For a little bit of background, the Five Guys that I was at was on a strip.
Mhm.
So the strip was C Spire. And they would all come in and get refills on drinks, lunch, whatever. And there was this one guy that'd come in and constantly flirt with me. And then there was one day, like 8 o'clock in the morning, I was coming into work, and all of a sudden I see this car whip into the parking lot. And turns out it happened to be one of my old managers who now worked at C Spire. She whipped into the parking lot, didn't even park straight. She was parked like this in like 3 different parking spots. She jumped out of her car, started running towards me, and then I
Oh my
see
God.
come in and flirt with me, just standing outside of his car. And she was like, Marisa, do you have a boyfriend? I'm like, like I'm a nun. That's really what
I'm a nun. I'm a nun.
reached,
No.
and I was shaking it as hard as I could. Let me in, let me in. I tried calling so many times. No one picked up the phone. And then when I finally got in, I ran to the back and told all the guys there what happened. And they were like, oh, you're just overreacting. You're being crazy. That didn't happen. I'm like, are you serious right now? I'm
Mm,
terrified for my life because they just don't
yeah.
struggle of what it is to be a woman in the world.
Yeah. Also, like, no, also like with like dramatics of them like moving the car towards you and running at you and stuff like that's like that can be definitely really scary, especially like in high school too. Like you're a younging, like they could like steal you.
Yes, and I was really little then too. Someone could have easily snatched me up. Whenever that happened, I did not know what was going to happen. All I knew was that I was about to crap my pants.
Correct. Yikes.
Yeah. And there was another time too where I was the only girl on shift. And one of the guy's girlfriends came in and ordered something, as people do. And I'm just minding my own business. And all of a sudden, the guy comes up to me and was like, oh, my girlfriend just told me that if she wasn't dating me, she'd be wanting to fuck you. I'm like, excuse me?
What?
Why did you just say that to a 17-year-old girl?
I don't love that.
And then, I was scared to be around him for a while, and I was really scared to say anything. But then one day I finally told my manager, and he was like, why didn't you tell me sooner? I was like, because no one would have believed me. Because that's just crazy. It's crazy. And even though I did say something later, nothing happened. He was
Oh
still,
yeah.
he could still be on the same shift that I was. Terrifying.
Yeah, no, that is not okay. And I think that's something that it's something like where people just don't like understand the scariness of like coming into a different environment, aka your work environment, and just get kind of being like looked at in a different way. I mean, I can definitely relate to that in multiple jobs, like of like coming to work and being looked up and down, or like someone checking me out, or like purposely like and like I worked a lot in the mall. I worked at a couple different stores in the mall, and I remember like restocking stuff and like someone coming and looking at me like bending over. Like even like little things like that. Like you just don't realize until you're in that space of uncomfortableness of what that's like.
Oh yeah.
It's so scary too, because like you never know who you're going to see at work, especially when you work in like the food industry, or like, you know, like me, I was at a store. Like you're working with the public like pretty closely, and I think that makes all the difference as well.
Oh yeah. And there was another time with a different manager that he would just harass me on pretty much a daily basis. Just and like you would try and make it look slick too. He was just like, "Oh, where's my hug at?" And he always want me to hug him, just tell me how beautiful I was. And when I told him that I was leaving, he was like, "Oh, you need to stay. You're just so smart. We can't function here without you." He just wanted me to stay so then he could ogle me.
That's so gross.
Yeah. And this man was probably like in his 30s.
No, absolutely not. I think that's so gross. Like, especially like at work. Like, if it's not obviously, even at work, if it's not being even reciprocated, like, first of all, it shouldn't be happening at work. But if it's not reciprocated, like, why are you not using your eyes and reading the room? Like,
Yeah.
you know, because like I understand, like, sometimes like you are attracted to someone at work. You do want to pursue that, which is totally fine and dandy as long as it's not going to disturb anything in your contract. But, you know, it shouldn't happen at work, period.
Right.
If it's going to happen at like with a work person, it should be after work.
Absolutely.
And two, you know, like just being like harassed like that, and like not having someone you could go to be like, hey, like they're doing this because they're the manager.
Right.
That's definitely a power imbalance, and like very, very uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
Now, if you were like down with it, go ahead. Like that's fine in my book.
To you, but feelings were not mutual, especially since he was almost twice my age at that point.
Right.
And I don't date coworkers anyway. It's just it doesn't ever end up well. But still.
Yeah, I can't say the same there. Triple yikes. Oopsies. Well, I mean, again, like I said, like if it's reciprocated, like I think it's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But then that becomes an A and B conversation between you and that person at work. Which you're gonna have to figure out, you know, is it allowed? Is it not allowed? Are you comfortable? What are you not comfortable with? It's all based on communication at that point. But like if you're in the point where it's just super toxic, you can't go tell anyone that you're uncomfortable because they're the manager or whatnot, like that's a pretty sticky situation.
And I just knew I had to get out of it because
Right,
I
correct.
felt physically unsafe and mentally I wasn't there either.
So
How can I go to work every day if I don't feel safe in that environment?
right. So did you just quit, or like how did you go about that?
I just quit. I put in my 2 weeks. I blamed it on school, which I mean, school was part of it, sure, but I also was tired of getting harassed
Yeah,
and not being.
yeah, I totally get that. I remember, now this is a little transition from like a male dominated toxic environment to just like in general, like I more of a race thing. Because like a lot of people will look at me and just be like, "Oh, you're white." Well, no, I'm Lebanese. Sorry, not sorry. I love my culture, I love my heritage. I love everything about it. And a lot of the times I get assumed as white, and I find that very toxic, that like no one wants to just ask me like, "Hey, like tell me about you," you know, like tell me about your life. Because the moment you ask me about my family or my parents specifically, or like how like I grew up or anything like that, like you're gonna hear like, yeah, so I'm a first generation American. I have a background, like I'm a Lebanese girly, and this is my tea. Well, some people don't think that, and then they're just like rude to me, or they end up knowing that I'm Lebanese, but then there's, oh, but you're still considered white. Well, technically, I'm not considered anything, considering that every like statistical test I've ever taken for school, or, any like literally like FAFSA, it's
Mhm.
like my options are white, Hispanic, non-Hispanic, Asian, island specific, Pacificer, Native American, other. Those are my options.
So what would you always pick?
I don't know. Sometimes I would pick, honestly, I would pick like random stuff all the time because like none of them really fit me. But I was like, okay, well, I could put white because I'm technically born in America. Like, I guess you could drown it out to that.
Not everyone born in America is white, though.
Well, also true, but I don't know what else is considered white because I've been told that I'm white my entire life. And then like, then I would put a non-Hispanic, and then I would put other. Those were but even on other, they didn't say like, what are you?
Right.
So I was like, okay, do I put like sand? I don't know. Like, like what do you put? Like, really, what do you put? So I don't know. Like, even like at jobs, like they would look at me and be like, well, you wouldn't know what it's like to be a minority. And I'm like, huh? But I do kind
Right.
of. And like obviously each culture has its own struggle with like how people are looking at them in the sense of being a minority. But like I'm not trying to compare this way. I'm trying to compare this way because we're all experiencing the same issue just in different ways because of how different our cultures are. And I would look at my managers like, that I'm like not right. Okay. So those were always my big toxic like things. Like I had one time I was working at on the crisis line, and this woman was like, I was training her, and she said something, I don't even know what it was now, but it was like very racist. And I was just like, you can't be saying that. Like you cannot be saying that. Like you have to approach everything with like an unbiased opinion, because
Yeah.
at this point, obviously we're working in crisis line. Everyone's in crisis. No one gives a shit about anything else. So if you're going to approach someone, you literally have to kind of act like in a sense, a log, in the sense of your emotions and your like political bias, whatever it was, and racist stuff. Like you have to put that aside. Like, and I never talked to her again. I was like, please don't put me with her ever again. That was not a fun time for any of us, and it was awful. Like, ugh. Like, how do you look at people that way? It's just so awful that that's like the only thing people approached with.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh. Yeah, but even like this is not even like technically toxic. This is a time that it was not toxic, but the situation was toxic.
Yeah.
So I was working at a shoe store in the mall, and it was my manager, like the head honcho, me, who was a little baby, and then another associate that was working that day. And this woman came in, and she had a stroller that was empty, no kids, and a big purse. Now, if you're in retail and you see a big empty purse and a big empty stroller, no matter what they look like,
Red flags.
they're gonna steal. Like it's just how it is. White, black, Asian, Middle Eastern, anyone. And so my associate, she was working in that aisle that she, I guess, wanted to steal in or whatever. And she was like organizing the boxes because like it's one of those stores where you go in, you try your size, you take it to the front, and you pay for it. You don't have to ask it from the back. So she was like organizing and making sure everything was in number order and like face front. Like we have to do that on a consistent basis. And the woman starts yelling at her like, you're stalking me and you're racist against me, blah, 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 blah. And we were like standing there like, what is going on? So I went over and like tried to calm down the situation. And so she was getting kind of like more of an aggressive stance. And me and the other associates started like going behind the counter.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very scary situation. And we called our manager and she was like, ma'am, you just have to leave, whatever. And so she left and we were like freaking out because, you know, like that was a very scary situation. Like if she came back with something else, you know, that was a little bit more aggressive or violent, like it could have definitely been a very, very scary environment. And so an hour later, we heard the police officers running down the hall to catch the same woman that was just in our store trying to steal like $300 worth of clothes from PacSun. But we were like scared. It was scary. Like that was a very toxic, scary thing to go through. Have you had anything like that before where you were like,
I have really not, because I
Mm.
didn't really work in retail. I did mainly like the food industry, and now I'm in education. So there's not really a lot of stealing that goes on in there.
God, I mean, that was scary stuff. Like I even have this one time that oh my God, did it just like fly from my head? Sure did. It's gone. Never mind.
If it's important, it'll come back.
Yeah. I think one of my fondest moments is, I guess it's not really a toxic environment, but it's like but like working at my family's business, like usually it goes decently well, like we usually get along, but like because we still have the family thing too, like, you know, like there's always that like yelling or like something didn't go the right way or something. Oh, and those are so annoying. One time I got yelled at by a customer for eating lunch. Oh my God. I don't, and he was like, I'm gonna call the FDA. Like he didn't know what he was talking about. I was like, okay, go call him. And
Yeah.
then I washed my hands and then I talked to the lady in front. Hi, so sorry about that. How can I help you today? And she was like, does this happen a lot to you? And I'm like, sure does.
Now that's something that I have experienced quite a bit in, because like, I mainly worked in the food industry. And one thing that I always hated was the customer's always right mentality,
Correct.
because they could be so rude and abrasive, but yet you have to keep on a loving smile and try and do the best that you can, and without reciprocating that attitude.
Correct.
But like, I understand being the bigger person and all that, but also I'm a fan of, you get what you get.
Yeah, I
It was
100% agree.
it was really hard to try and keep a smile on my face when someone's yelling at me for stupid stuff or treating me like I'm an idiot. Like, there was this one time I was working at a bakery, and the main thing that we sold was cinnamon rolls. And I was writing down her order, and she kept going, I want 2 cinnamon rolls. 2 cinnamon rolls. I was like, okay. So I gave it back to her. I said, I'm writing down 2 cinnamon rolls.
There you go.
And there was also another time where, well, again, backstory on this bakery. It was owned by a lady who, I'm trying to think of what she had. She had some sort of cancer, I believe.
Poor girlie.
And she passed away, and now her daughter runs it. Her daughter does the baking, and her husband does the finances. And I'm taking these people's order, and this was years after the lady died, and they asked for cookies. I said, I'm sorry, we only do cookies on this day. And they were like, oh, Miss Mary wouldn't allow that. She would have had cookies out every day. And I just had to keep my composure, Because one, who are they to say how to run a business? And two, who are they to say what a dead woman would or would not have wanted? You know?
I mean, correct.
So I just kept my composure. I was like, well, is there anything else that I can get for you?
Mm.
That was one of the hardest days because of that. Like, who has the audacity to act like that?
It's absolutely ridiculous. Literally ridiculous. I had a customer. She was on the phone with me because, again, crisis line. And she kept telling me that there was paperwork in for her to help her daughter when there was no paperwork in with her name on it. And I was like, well, did someone else fill it out for you? Did you? No, it should be there. It should be there. So like she kept fighting me. And I would go and look, and I literally had managers on the back end, like trying to help me find this so-called document. And the only document we could find is that her sister is okayed for medical like knowledge, not the mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, the daughter filled it out wrong is what I'm hearing. So the daughter finally gets on the phone and she's like, what? And I could tell that this was one of those situations that I kind of have where you as the oldest daughter fill everything out and your parents have no idea what they're, looking at because they didn't do it, and I totally understand that. I mean, I do stuff like that all the time. And so I knew the daughter was irritated, but she did it wrong. Like, I can't help you if you did it wrong.
Right.
And so I was like, hey, queen, like, obviously, like, way more professional, but hey, queen, like, it shows that you are allowed to have medical access. Like, I'm going to resend you this, and I need you to fill it out correctly for your mom. Because if you don't fill it out correctly, for your mom can't get any medical like documentation for your sister, brother, I don't remember who it was now. She was like, okay, fine. I was like, okay, thank you. Is this the email? Great. And I sent them off their way. And I said, once you send this in, it takes about 4 to 7 business days. Keep that in mind. But as long as you have your name on it, you just need to go with your sister or brother or whatever to get this paperwork done. Fine. Okay. Click. That was an hour conversation.
Wow.
And I'm like, guys, like, if you just like, I know you think you know what's going on, but you don't. So sorry. Like, I really felt awful about it because, like, in that situation, the patient really needed someone to be able to, because they were 18, like they just turned 18 or whatever. And so they're trying to get their documents together, which I totally get. Like, I'll be having, like, I'll do the same thing with, my kids for a little bit just to make sure that they know what they're doing first. But this was more of a delicate situation. And I was just like, look, like on our end, it shows A, B, C, D, E, F, G, not H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P.
Mm-hmm.
So cross your T's, dot your I's before you come at me for an hour.
Right.
Right.
Like, I understand that. I'm sure that circumstance was very stressful, but there was no need to take that out on you.
For an hour.
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous.
Like, I could have been taking like more serious calls that like were a little bit more detrimental considering it's a crisis line. But I'm always down. I'm almost down to help. But that was just one of those situations where I was like, I'm literally going to resend you the paperwork. Like, I know it's stressful to like wait and like be patient with things like that, but you have to be patient, unfortunately. Yeah.
It's hard, but bite the bullet and do it.
Like, you can get through it. Like, chica. Where you been, loca? Like, I don't know. You could definitely get through it if you were just patient. But I guess this is the point where we start giving advice of how to be better in these situations. One, I think, discussing the situation with other coworkers, especially managers, if the manager is not the one causing the issue, is definitely key, no matter what age you are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, or even calling like HR. I know sometimes they have like an HR number in the back.
Always stand up for yourself. That's one thing I had to learn the hard way.
100%. Two, I think from this, is if you feel so uncomfortable in the situation, find a way out, whether that's quitting or, trying to avoid a certain shift, whatever you have to do. I know for me, sometimes it's hard finding another job, but if you are in like high school and you're doing more of these like, McDonald's or like it's like fast food / retail, like it's easy to get another job in another store. Just leave. Find a way out. Because especially if you're really uncomfortable and it's not a good environment for you to be in, you don't need to be doing that to your mental health. It's just going to be worse.
I think
Just-
overall it's just putting yourself first and doing what you need to do.
Correct. Yeah. And then if you have a crappy situation with like a customer, don't be scared to call in for help. Don't be scared to like, I know for me, we would like fake like over the mic be like, yeah, camera 3. Like we would say like different things like that just to scare people.
Okay.
But like, hey, it worked.
Yeah.
Kept us safe. So following those type of protocols, walking out with your people at the end of the night, especially if it's nighttime. I feel like those are big like pieces of advice that are really good in these type of situations. Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for listening to Enhance. We always appreciate you guys coming around and hanging out with us. And we hope to see you soon. Bye. Thank you so much, Maresa, for coming.
Thank you, Gabby.
Thank you so much for listening to Enhance Podcast. I am Sam, one of your hosts.
And I'm your other host, Gabby Sabai.
If you want to find me on social media, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at SamDifYouDo.
You can find me on TikTok at GabbyS80 and on Instagram at GSABAT97.
And if you want to follow the podcast, you can find us on Instagram and on Facebook at enhance.productions.publishing.
And check us out on our website at enhance.productions.
Enhance your peace
Your joy
and your existence.